welcome to Pluribus Unum Fireside Chats. Not as good as some others, but hey, it's something. Now, this one's going to be interesting, because this is going to be, ironically, going back and doing a sort of redux of a previous thoughts on. I normally don't do this, and I highly doubt that I will do it for most the things on my podcast at all, really. Podcasts are usually just me sitting here bullshitting on a mic for an hour or so. Though I guess I will use this time to state that I am going to be reduxing some old videos, I think. Not all of them, but a couple of them. I don't know how far back I'm gonna go in reduxing my videos. I do know that I'll be reduxing my first couple, part of history videos, but otherwise, I'm not going to be reduxing most videos, because, even at least to a certain point, because at one point I get, my groove of things. That's what my script videos are for, which I'm going to be doing another one this year. I'm going to be doing one every year, so if there's a screw that I have in a video, leave it in a comment, and I'll probably put it in, if maybe. With all that out of the way, let's get right into the news. First, we're going to be covering the least important story of the day. Nancy Pelosi seen without mask inside a San Francisco hair salon. The most powerfully elected U.S. Democrat, Nancy Pelosi, has visited a hair salon in San Francisco, breaking rules that only allow service outdoors in order to control the spread of the coronavirus. Ms. Pelosi was also seen with a face mask around her neck rather than over her mouth. She has criticized President Donald Trump for not wearing a mask. A spokesman said that she did not realize she was breaking her home city's rules. Mr. Trump says that she was being decimated after lecturing everyone else. Thousands of California businesses have shut us down as a part of... It says right here, California businesses have shut as part of measures to fight coronavirus. Shut down is what they probably meant. But here's the thing. Pelosi has also said, I'm being set up. They set me up. They set me up. Which is stupid, because here's the thing. They wouldn't have to set you up if you were doing the right thing. Literally, if you were doing the right thing, you'd be fine. It's like saying to Anthony Weiner and being like, oh no, they set me up for sexting a minor. It's like, if you were trying to sext a minor, then it wouldn't work. The trick wouldn't work. You wouldn't have been gotten if you were doing the right thing in the first place. And liberals, of course, jump to Queen Nancy Pelosi, like, oh, Nancy Pelosi, let me suck your toes, you're so perfect, yeah. Because Pelosi is God and can't do anything wrong. They simp for Pelosi. Let's just say that. Liberals simp for Pelosi. It actually makes a whole lot of sense when you think about it. Think about it. She asks them for money, and she does things, and they always go oh, yes, Pelosi, yes. Now, of course, you could say, well, they stan her. Don't say they simp for her. That's sexist. No, it's not. Another thing that simping does is it makes you feel like you're getting something out of the deal. Nancy Pelosi ain't giving you nothing. She doesn't even give you she doesn't give you anything. She spits in your eye. Normally, when you want grandmas to go spit in your eye and call you stupid, you have to go to a certain website. You don't have to elect them to be one of the highest members of the House of Representatives. Before I move on to more important stories, I guess I should say this. I guarantee you, if Shahid Buttar went to a salon to get his man bun did, he would have worn a mask. Just saying. Anyways, now on to a more important story. Trump's ever-loving, hey, what if we became authoritarian cheaters? JK lol. Trump encourages North Carolina residents to vote twice to test mail-in system. President Donald Trump suggests that people in North Carolina should vote twice in the November election, once by mail and once in person, escalating his attempts to cast confusion and doubt on the validity of the results. So let them send it in and let them go vote. And if the system's as good as they say it is, then obviously they won't be able to vote. If it isn't tabulated, they'll be able to vote. Trump says, as he was asked whether or not he has confidence in the mail-in system in North Carolina and battleground states, "If it's as good as they say it is, then obviously they won't be able to vote. If it isn't tabulated, they'll be able to vote. So that's the way it is, and that's what they should do," he said. And the website has the audacity to say this: "It is illegal to vote more than once in an election." But guys, you don't understand. You know what this means? It means I can satiate the people who tell me in my comments and stuff to go vote for Joe Biden, and the people who tell me to vote for Howie Hawkins because they hate the two-party system. I can vote for them both. That's a joke. That is a deceit. I am not planning on voting 2 times. I'm only planning on voting once. Whoever gets that vote will have to wait and see. But I only plan on voting for one of those 2. But I guess this should also be used to talk about the very real thing of Trump again saying something that is pretty clearly authoritarian and lying and like deceit and like cheating. But also he always tries to stipulate it as like I was just messing around. It was for this reason, not for this reason. Like when he's like, "You know what? Maybe we should be able to run for another term because the Democrats screwed it up so much for me this term, so it doesn't really count." It's like, no, buddy, no, buckaroo, you can't do that. And when the Trump supporters say like 12 more years, and he's like, "Well, I mean, maybe. Just kidding, I would never." Now, is he playing around? Maybe. But let's be real. He would want that. He would want 12 more years. But I mean, let's just say this. Everybody always has this, like, idea that inevitably Trump is going to have to be dragged out of the White House kicking and screaming. I'll believe it when I see it. But, I mean, as authoritarian as he is, he still probably will just, admit defeat. I mean, he definitely doesn't want to admit defeat, but at one point he's going to have to at one point. Well, I mean, unless the Democratic Party fucks us all up beyond repair. I mean, this is one of those situations where it's like 2016 2.0. This time, Biden has a huge advantage because at this point in time, he's still more well-liked than Hillary Clinton. So it's literally just like, you can't screw this up. Nope, no matter where you put it, you just can't. At this point, like I said, this might be the only time where, them saying, "Oh, we're not Trump," will actually be beneficial. This will probably be the only time that strategy will actually work. Just because Trump is that bad. Even I've been in talks of, like, vote swapping because I'm just like, yeah, but Trump is just that bad. Just this particularly bad. I'll still aggressively be like, Howie Hawkins is cooler on the internet. But, I don't know, maybe I might vote swap just for, like, the people who are legitimately like, but I would only be doing it for, like, this election, I think. I mean, let's be real. I've been saying multiple times, like, how they could have got my vote other ways. There are many ways that people could have gotten my vote. Like, Biden could have tried changing his policies to better suit me. He could have tried picking a running mate that would have suited me. One of those attractive Biden voting girls could have sent me a little something. Just kidding. I'm not David Silverstone. Because all the people that I talk to, they consent and want to talk to me. And also are adults. But yeah, might vote swap. But will still act like I'm voting for Howie Hawkins because I'm cool. Really, I'm only trying to help get that GP to that 5%, so maybe they can actually stand a chance, and even then, it might not work so well. Anyways, now on to the next story, one that is actually legitimately important. Appeals court rules NSA's bulk phone data collection illegal. A federal appeals court ruled Wednesday that NSA surveillance programs that collected data on Americans' telephones were illegal and possibly unconstitutional. A three-judge panel on the Ninth Circuit of the Appeals ruled that the program, which was revealed by whistleblower Edward Snowden and officially ended in 2015, violated U.S. surveillance laws and potentially the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. Despite the conclusion about the surveillance program, the judges upheld convictions of 4 Somali immigrants who brought a legal challenge against its appeal. Wednesday's ruling came 7 years after the 4 were convicted in 2015 of sending money to the terrorist group Al-Shabaab. Snowden, who was cited repeatedly in the court's decision, revealed that the surveillance program's existence just months after their trial in 2013. This means one very big question. When does Snowden get out? No, seriously, if he is free, like if this was proven to be true, and he is, and we've seen that it's unconstitutional, as they were saying, Snowden should be free now, correct? Because that means he was just trying to get into, it means he was just, he did it right, he did good, and he should be free to go home now. And there were even some Republicans who were calling for his release. I think it was for an earlier story, though. Like Thomas Massey and Matt Gaetz were like, yo, why don't we be free? Why don't we let Snowden home? But, I don't know. Maybe hopefully that could be the October surprise to try and win lefties over. Okay, so here's the next story. Congress should investigate OAS actions in Bolivia. Now, I don't need to go into the story as it's not necessary, but what is necessary is for me to explain the 2 members of Congress that wrote the article about it. The 2 members of Congress that wrote the article are Jan Schakowsky and my boy Jesus Chewy Garcia. My boy. These 2, they're both Illinois congresspeople. And, Schakowsky is kind of like the Warren type progressive, which is, progressive on some things, progressive on not sometimes. But Chewy, my boy Chewy, looking out for other Latin leftists everywhere. He was there on AMLO's inauguration, and he's there to protect Evo Morales. My boy. Chewy 5th Squad member, my boy. I just took this opportunity to stand him. Now on to the more standing of another figure that actually did something also so worthwhile. Senator Ed Markey defeats a Kennedy in Massachusetts. Senator Ed Markey beat back a bid on Tuesday from Representative Joe Kennedy to end his nearly 50 years in elected office, humbling the Democratic Party's family dynasty that had never lost an election in Massachusetts. The longtime legislator won the primary by campaigning as the most progressive person in the race, while emphasizing his roots as the son of a milkman from Malden. We made it clear that we'd rather lose fighting as hard as we could for what we believe in than in fighting the middle ground. Progressive movement knows how to fight. We will not surrender. And you want to know what truly solidifies the left's win that night? Immediately after he won, they tried to diminish his win like literally every single time the left wins. Every single time the left wins, it's nothing. AOC won. They were like, yeah, they won. A Latina won in a Latina-leaning district. Wow. No. They didn't elect Jamal Momin and Mondaire Jones because of their platforms. They elected them because they're black. And for Ed Markey, they were saying, it's almost as if 90% of incumbents win their primaries. And it's like, dude, Kennedy was expected to wipe the floor with Markey. They were literally telling him, hey, dude, you may as well retire right now because there is no way you are going to win this seat. You are going to lose if you try to combat any Kennedy in this state. You're going to lose. And they were telling him, like, here's what you need to do if you actually want to try and win, and here's what he decided to do instead. He decided to focus on policy, and go to the Democratic base and actually try to show them, hey, I've been fighting for a lot of these progressive ideals for a long time. I've been a previous co-sponsor of H.R. 676, and when Bernie introduced his version of the bill, I jumped on immediately. Sure, I've screwed up a couple of times, but I've evolved and changed my views. That's a thing that you really like. And I actually want to do something interesting. I want to push the Biden administration that might come. I'm actually going to try and push Biden on the Green New Deal. He said he wasn't going to support it, but we need to make sure he passes the Green New Deal. During one of his, last quotes for the, events, he was literally saying, we can't run away from our base. We need to move towards them. If Joe Biden were like Markey, and he was doing this, I would have been a Biden supporter a long time ago. I bring this comparison up because he is, Donald Trump is actually trying to use the Markey victory to try and hinder Joe Biden. He literally says this. This is a quote from Trump. The radical left has captured the party. They even elected a person no one ever heard of, a senator. It's been a while against a young, good-looking Kennedy by 10 points in Massachusetts. Did you know that Kennedy lost Massachusetts? Do you know why? Because he wasn't a radical left. He was like a semi-normal person, just slightly left. Also, you know who's heard of Ed Markey? Donald Trump. Because he gave money to Ed Markey previously. And yeah, Trump, Trump, of course, he's trying to run to his base, but his base is completely brain dead. So we'll see who has a better time running to their base and actually turning out votes to win. Anyways, now on to the smaller candidate of the day, John McCain. He's running on a platform of common sense, fresh ideas, and constitutional rights. He's an independent candidate, and he wants to overthrow the status quo. He says join 70% of America who wants a change, in referencing the fact that, 70% of America wants a new major party. Okay, here's his actual platform. Planet-friendly money plus citizen dividend. Liberty is the greenback. Clean, green, and citizen-owned. Eco-focus. Solutions, not pollution. Liberty is clean air, fresh water, healthy food, and eco-jobs. Legalize cannabis. Legalize, regulate, tax, and educate. Liberty is jobs, not prison. Weed, not pills. Teamwork. Capital labor partnership. Liberty is coordinated effort for health, and wellness for all. And equal rights for all. Liberty is respect for self and others, and the golden rule and equal rights for all. He says liberty is, that's what he says, liberty is clean, green, and citizen-owned. That's clearly his platform. So, I'm not entirely sure what he is. He says right here, donate $420 to his campaign. So, it's clear that he really, really likes weed. I mean, if the legal marijuana party didn't, have some sort of, if they didn't endorse Howie Hawkins, he would be the person who is great to be their nominee. No war with Iran, slash student loans, targeted basic income, healthcare and balanced budget rule. Interesting. Okay, let's see. That's pretty much all he's got to say. It's like a libertarian-ish kind of person, and a libertarian socialist, I guess, sort of. Okay, now on to the main topic of this video. Jimmy Dore. I've done a podcast about Jimmy Dore previously, where I said this.
Now let's start off with the first thing. Do I like him or do I hate him? I freaking love Jimmy Dore.
Yeah, I don't feel that way anymore. I mean, in fact, I feel kind of the quite opposite of him. Okay, so let me explain why I kind of grew to hate Jimmy Dore. The biggest thing that inevitably led to me hating Jimmy Dore is the one thing that you probably expect. Tulsi Gabbard. You see, throughout the entire primary, at one point, everybody thought that at one point, Jimmy would, in fact, support Bernie. In fact, that is quite not the case. He did not endorse Bernie through the entirety of the primary. He was always a supporter of Tulsi Gabbard. Now, here's the thing. Even when he was a supporter of Tulsi Gabbard, I mean, well, not even was. He still is a supporter of Tulsi Gabbard. Even when he is, like, when he was in this primary process, and they would ask him, like, are you supporting Tulsi? Like, his friends, like Jordan Cheriton and stuff, they would ask him, do you support Tulsi Gabbard? And he would always try to say, like, I support Tulsi Gabbard being there. I mean, I think she provides a good voice for the blah, blah, blah. And it's even that it's like, dude, just own up to it. If you're a fan of Tulsi Gabbard, be a fan of Tulsi Gabbard. Like, just do it. I know you still want to have some credibility in the progressive movement, but just throw it away like Nico House did. Who cares? You don't need credibility when you have a bunch of people in your comment section that support everything you do. Why is it all the bad, crabby people get all these massive fan bases of people who want to suck their dicks every day? I'm the one who puts in effort and time and like research and trying to provide a good quality content, and I don't get this big psychopathic fan rage. Maybe I should go back to my morals and endorse a candidate that goes against a lot of things that I actually support. Now, Jimmy Dore, he was pretty much the Nico House, except with slightly more credibility. Like, he would give Tulsi some critiques, but he would still ultimately try to be like, oh, no, you're still good. Like, for example, when he interviewed Tim Pool, after Tim Pool kind of, like, accidentally, like, leaked things that showed Twitter had a somewhat left bias, he said, like, so, Tim Pool, what do you disagree with the left on? And then Tim Pool's like, oh, I'm not a fan of Medicare for all. And he's like, oh, you're not? No, I'm not a fan of a public option. And then he railed into him for supporting a public option. And then when he, like, interviewed Andrew Yang and Marianne Williamson on his show, and they, like, tried to do a little bit of public option, he would always be like, whoa, hold on, that's weird. He even went on this thing where he, like, claimed, like, Bernie was going back on Medicare for all, when literally all he was saying was, look, I know we can't pass Medicare for all at this particular moment in time, but what I'm saying is, during the COVID-19 crisis, we should look into, like, expanding healthcare instead of trying to make it less. Because I guarantee you, they would have been telling him, like, oh, you're just trying to push Medicare for all. No. And yet, when Tulsi Gabbard was going literally on her single-payer plus thing, Jimmy Dore was saying, like, oh, it's like Australia. It's all good. It's like, Jimmy, where's the push? Where's the push, dude? And there's a reason, and many people even have tried to say, like, there's a beyond reason why he does this. Why he rails in on Bernie, but he doesn't rail in on Tulsi. And it's the most, like, self-centered BS reason. He says, like, the reason why he's soft on Tulsi is because she was on a show. And, like, I'm pretty sure that, like, that's what a lot of fans, like, that's what his friends have said. Like, he rails in hard on Bernie because he didn't go on a show. I'm sorry that your integrity was worth getting those sweet dollar signs. In fact, Jimmy Dore was kind of becoming the new Dave Rubin to a degree. Because, like, he rails in against the Democrats and Bernie all the time, and he, like, doesn't talk about Republicans a lot. Now, I know I said in the previous one, like, oh, maybe it's a good thing, because, I mean, normally people don't watch just him, they don't watch other people's shows. But here's the thing, there seems to be another reason. Apparently, Jimmy Dore has a huge right-wing fan base, and while he hasn't stooped to the level of, you know, Dave Rubin, who has completely sold out all of his political beliefs, he's only sold out a little bit, a tiny bit, enough so that he still has some credibility left. You know, supporting Tulsi, the supposed, you know, she's still on the left, so he can still support her while still retaining his right-wing fan base, because a lot of these far-right folks, for some reason, really love Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang. I mean, I don't get it either. But I saw, like, Nick Fuentes literally said, like, oh, I totally love Tulsi Gabbard, but I wouldn't vote for her because she's a woman. I don't think a woman can be president. Like, that's weird, and probably is a huge indication that Tulsi was not the best choice at all. But here's the kicker. Here's the funniest kicker. Jimmy still considers him, like, a huge part of, like, you know, the left and big left-wing movements. And, like, he literally said, like, after Bernie Sanders dropped out, he said, what do we do now? And it's like, what do you mean we? There is no we. You gave up on being we a long time ago. And the thing is, for some reason, being super pro-Tulsi also means you have to be super anti-AOC. You know why? Because there's a lot of money in that conservative anti-AOC crowd, because AOC has become the boogeyman of the right wing. A young Latina is the enemy of the right wing of America. I mean, the left is looking at her to be the figurehead of the Bernie Sanders movement, the progressive movement in America. And yet, Jimmy Dore, he shits on her all the time. He always, like, goes in like, oh, AOC is bad because she voted for the CARES Act. Oh, AOC is bad because she endorsed her party's nominee for president. Oh, AOC is bad because she doesn't support Tulsi Gabbard's Off Act and she supports the Green New Deal. Like, I don't get this huge hate boner people get for, like, AOC. Like, I really do not understand what this huge thing is. AOC was pretty much the person who reinvigorated the left. Like, they didn't know if the Bernie movement was gonna work or not. And AOC primaried a very big Democrat and knocked him down and has pushed the Democratic Party left. Like I said, she's using her momentum to get things done. The Green New Deal. It was a fancy pipe dream in, like, democratic socialist land. Now it's got a decent amount of support, and the Senate sponsor of the bill, with her help, stayed in the seat. She's been helping other down-ballot progressives try and get their momentum heard, and actually trying to push them to win. Oh, but that dreaded vote for the CARES Act was so bad. How dare she vote for the only bill that was proposed at the time to get COVID response at all. If she voted no, there probably wouldn't be a COVID response at all. Oh, and, you know who else voted for the CARES Act? All but 6 representatives. Amash, 3 Republicans, Ron Kind, and Scott Peters. But AOC voted for it so bad. I'm sorry that AOC wasn't able to live up to the standards of a guy who thought that the suicide hotline being 3 numbers was just too much for Congress to do, and Democrats that were part of the No Labels Caucus, which is literally the, quote, most moderate caucus of them all. And I mean, you know, being a Tulsi Gabbard fan, he would just make crap up that suited his needs. Like, he could say Bernie was ultimately super, super evil and bad, and Tulsi Gabbard was a million times good. She was actually to the left of Bernie on some things. It got to the point where his videos became completely unbearable to watch. This is how bad it got. Jimmy Dore, he would say something like in the first 10 seconds of a video, and I would get so mad that I would just turn off the video. This is how bad it got. Jimmy Dore literally said something that was just so dumb, I was just like, It annoyed me to the nth degree. Here's what he said.
Could you imagine if John McCain won the presidency in 2008 and then kicked 5.1 million families out of their house while he made the banks bigger, made Bush's tax cuts permanent, and took us from 2 wars to 7? The left would have been in the street fucking burning shit down. But because Barack Obama did it, nobody said a word. Nobody said a word. Including Bernie Sanders, till this day, won't critique Barack Obama on that.
Look, that moment got me so mad that I literally just stopped what I was doing, pulled out my computer, then downloaded that video, cropped the first 10 seconds, and then started looking for videos to prove Jimmy Dore wrong, because literally at the top of my head, I was literally like, Occupy Wall Street, Alan Grayson, Dennis Kucinich, Jill Stein, Rocky Anderson, Bernie Sanders, Peter DeFazio, John Wolfe Jr., John D. Haywood, Darcy Richardson, Real News Network, Democracy Now!, Stuart Alexander, Ed Schultz, Tom Hartman, Cenk Uygur, Kyle Kalinske was getting off the ground then. You know that the left was saying things. But, of course, that doesn't fit with your narrative. That the left was too lazy in Democrat years, but loves Trump years because Trump years make them be all, oh, we hate Trump. Trump is bad, yeah. Even though your whole thing is that the Democrats do that and the left does not do that. But you also need to say that the left does that because, you know, you have a big Republican fan base, and they really love to hear left is stupid, left is stupid. And of course he was one of those, he is now like the leader of the dumb left. Like there's a new dumb left in town. It's the group of like him, William Pounds, Nico House. In fact, well, I mean, dumb left, quote unquote, because, I mean, when you're going against the actual democratic socialists and pushing for libertarians like Jesse Ventura and Tulsi Gabbard, are you really a leftist? Like, I mean, these are people who literally say that Tulsi Gabbard is to the left of Bernie. Bernie calls himself a socialist, Tulsi calls himself a capitalist. You can see who's further to the left. So yeah, I'd say it's fair to say that I don't think he's number 2 anymore. He's not even on the list anymore. But I mean, to be fair, my list is weird because on one hand, I watch like, you know, purely, like mainstream left news, like, oh, I watch Kyle Kalinske and Humanist Report and Rational National. But then on the other end, I watch like completely like niche shows like Not Welcome and Above It All. And, I'm cool with being the niche one too, but that would require people to actually watch me, so. Now, I tackled something weirdly like this in the last video where I talked about, Jimmy Dore saying, how he goes, on these weird conspiracy type things. This one isn't really a conspiracy thing, but it's just, what? Why would you do this? Okay, I was originally talking about something else, but then this article I saw literally showed something else. During his many critiques and interesting takes on, Syria and stuff, he was called an Assad apologist and claimed that the people who were, going against him were, paid Al-Qaeda, they were shills for Al-Qaeda, including a TYT contributor named Francesca Fiorentini. Dore sent her direct messages on Twitter, calling her a fucking liar and a page chill, which means paid shill, a fucking coward, a sack of shit, and a dishonest piece of shit. He then went on to say, if you think this is ending here, you are sadly mistaken, because I'm making sure everyone knows who you are, not only at TYT, but everyone, everywhere I go, is going to know what a piece of shit you are. Then he went on to say that she was crying victim when she made these DMs public, and then he made some sort of haphazard apology saying look, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have called them pro-Al-Qaeda without proof. I'm sorry. But then it apparently turned out Jimmy Dore actually got money from a pro-Assad lobbying group. So it's literally, I'm only going to be doing the Patreon model if I ever actually start making money off of this. I'm only doing the Patreon model. I don't, you could tell, how is this show, oh, cool. He's getting to the point where, he's becoming the TYT. Everybody, talks crap about how the TYT is, big and too big for its britches. Jimmy Dore is doing exactly that. This show is probably gonna stay the way it is for me, personally. But even if it, gets to the point where I get, a studio or anything like that, which is 100% unlikely, but if it did happen, you'd probably get similar stuff, but with just a slightly better budget. But the thing I was originally talking about was when he said the strangest thing you could possibly say, given the particular context of what he was trying to say. Let me play the clip.
There's a saying, and maybe I'll butcher it, but it's if you want to know who rules over you, it's who you're not allowed to criticize.
Sounds simple enough. The anti-authoritarian type people would really be into this kind of thing. Although, to be fair, Jimmy Dore, he gets the quote wrong. Here's what the quote actually says. To determine the true rulers of any society, all you must do is ask yourself this question. Who is it that I am not permitted to criticize? Sounds a bit more poignant than when Jimmy said it, because he was just rambling off of himself. But who wrote the quote? Well, here's the writer of the quote. Kevin Alfred Strom, an American white nationalist, neo-Nazi, Holocaust denier, white separatist, and associate editor of National Vanguard. I actually have tracked down the source of the quote, and it was an essay he wrote called All America Must Know the Terror That Is Upon Us. Let's read some other quotes from this amazing thing Jimmy Dore just really, really liked for some reason. Israel's interests are sacred to the real movers and shakers in the world government, and they simply laugh at the parliamentary posturing in the General Assembly when it does not serve their purposes. Here's another quote. Did you know that the communist takeover of Russia was financed by Jewish capitalists? Here's another quote. The Bolshevist revolution in Russia was the work of Jewish brains, of Jewish satisfaction, of Jewish planning, whose goal is to create a new order in the world. Here's another one. Some call it Marxism, I call it Judaism. But I think the thing you must want more is the context of his quote. And you want to know what this quote is? Remember the quote, to determine the rules of any society? Here's the thing. Here's what he says. He says, sodomy is no longer a sin. Burning and spitting and urinating upon the American flag is no longer a sin. Gross desecration of Catholic or Protestant religious symbols is no longer a sin. Cop killing is no longer a sin. Ironic. And lastly, here's the thing he says. He says, anti-Semitism is the ultimate sin in America. You clearly get what he's trying to say. He's saying that the reason you can't criticize Jews in America is because Jews are in the world. Okay, that definitely seems suspect. But if it happened the one time, I'm sure Jimmy didn't really have the idea of this particular quote.
You're called anti-Semitic in the United States because if you want to know who rules over you, just find out who you're not allowed to criticize.
In case you couldn't tell, that was a different instance of him using the quote. I know it's not exactly useful in an audio medium such as this, but, I mean, Jimmy has used this quote from a literal anti-Semite twice when he's trying to describe about this new world order that's ruled by Jews and communists. Here's the reason why that quote is absolutely terrible for him to use. You want to know what he was using this quote for? To defend Ilhan Omar. Let me say that again. He was using this quote from a neo-Nazi who was talking about a Jewish New World Order. He was trying to use this quote to defend Ilhan Omar from anti-Semitism claims. You know, I really do need to rethink the idea that maybe there are a lot more anti-Semites in the left than I thought they were. I mean, I'm not accusing Jimmy Dore of being anti-Semitic, but you don't use a quote from a neo-Nazi more than once. Especially considering I'm pretty sure at one point during the first time he was told what the quote actually meant. I mean, come on, dude. I mean, it makes sense. He fell from grace, so of course this would be where he goes next. Maybe it's an attempt to try and get more conservative support. I don't know. It's pretty much all I gotta say about Jimmy. Jimmy Dore sucks. The end. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified when a future video comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website or follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Quora, join my Discord, or check out my articles on the Independent Political Report.